Rashid. Welcome to my Integrated Circuit channel. I'm recording this episode after a few weeks. I was quite busy with some other stuff that I've been doing. I do graphics design and I do a lot of artwork, and some of that you can see at the back too. And soon this room will be filled with all my art. You see some canvases there. Okay. And I also like printing on almost all kind of surfaces. So you see the wood print, US flag, and I print on hats, shirts, mugs, glass, wood I just mentioned, all kind of things. I have some special printers, and that's my that was my hobby, and I've moved a little bit further from hobby to a little bit part-time business. So, I enjoy this work, and whenever I have time after my day job, that's what I love doing. So, yeah, I was very busy on those, and sorry couldn't get a video soon for you guys. So what I'm planning to do today is I started this channel with the aim on staying higher level on physical design. Um, um, then I started exploring some of the basics of physical designs, basics of integrated circuits, and I realized that while I explain the higher level physical design, it's also important to have a good fundamental concepts. So whenever I would try to explain timing, layout, and other things, I felt like I had to explain some of the basic things, and I kept mentioning, P, time material, N time material, transistor operation. So I thought it would be good that I really go to the basic level. Like I start with what is semiconductor. Um, Explain conductor, insulators, then semiconductor, and then take a look at the functionality of diode. Again, still staying at higher level. I won't go into very too much detail of writing equation for current, for example. And then I would also like to explain operation of a transistor. Some of the regions that you need to understand in order to understand the high level functionality of integrated circuits. So my plan today is I will cover conductors, insulators, then semiconductor, and then diode. I'm not sure if I'll get time for transistor, but we'll see. I think most likely we'll do in the next episode. And once that is done, then we'll see what other topics we need to look into for integrated circuits. Okay, so hope you're all well. Um, you know, this is July. Today is July 6th, almost. The next day started, and things in US, in some of the states which reopen are getting worse. COVID 19 cases are going up. Colorado, where I live, it's not too bad. Though state level numbers have gone up, but my county, Larimer, in the northern Colorado, they're doing fine. But still everybody is nervous. And we wear masks whenever we are outside, especially when we go into the shopping places. Shopping centers have slowly opened, but you don't see many people there. People go out whenever there is some essential stuff to buy. Grocery store, for example, that's where all of us go. But most of the places we maintain a good social distance of 6 feet wherever we can, and really hope this virus vaccination comes soon and we get back to our normal lives. And it's all over the world, so it's not just one place being affected by this. There are fears all over the place. Um, so anyway, while you're home, you can invest a lot of in a lot of things that previously you didn't have time because you're at home. You can be a lot more productive in your work. At least that's how I see it. Like the time that we wasted in commute um, and other things, in going to cafeteria, moving between meeting rooms. I feel like all that time um, we can, spend more in the work and be more productive. And for my work, at least I don't see it being impacted. Actually, I'm pretty much used to it now. I feel pretty good about it. My team is also, I think they're generally okay. Um, the nature of our work and the tools that we had, they were already in place for us to, be able to do remote work. So things are not too bad for us, but I'm sure there are other businesses, local businesses, um, which rely on customer traffic, right, and rely on face-to-face work, and they are impacted by that. So I really hope things get better soon, things get back to normal, and if any of you is not feeling well, I really hope you recover pretty soon. So let's get started into the technical stuff. Let's go to very basic. I know some of the listeners or viewers of my channel are in high school, so you probably be thinking I'm going back to high school. But yeah, what is an atom is the very basic thing, right? Inside, in the center of the atom, let me start scribbling on an iPad, and the screen is sharing, so I'll spend time seeing on the iPad as well as seeing to you. Okay, so inside the atom we have proton and we have neutron, right? Simple, a high school lesson. And then outside, we have electrons. Okay, we have shells. Oh, that's not great. Different shells. Shells are the orbits. Okay, not orbits in the sense that like an Earth revolves around the sun. They don't, orbit or revolve around the nucleus, but those shells are the probable places where electrons can exist. Okay, so at different levels, at different energy levels, there are places where electrons can flow or can exist, and those places are called shell. So some are closer to nucleus, and some are away from the nucleus. I'm just turning on this light. Okay, oops. Okay. So, and electrons stay here. A great electron. And for the atom, to get it to it's a stable position. Right? You know the swing. Swing can go left and right. Okay, and in the stable condition, it will stay in the middle, and only it will go to left or right only when there are external forces pushing it in one or the other side. So electrons are the same thing. There are a certain number of electrons around each atom, different type of atom, different type of materials. Okay, each material it has atom with certain number of electrons, and in a stable condition, most of these atoms have these electrons distributed with a certain order. Like typically, the very first shell, which is closer to nucleus, has maximum two electrons. Second one, maximum 8 electrons. Next one, 18. Okay, next one, 32. All right, so they are, they will, like, the electron will fill the first shell with the 2, the next electron will go to the second shell and you know have 8 there. When the number is beyond that, like 11th will go to the third one until you have 18 there, and so on. Okay, and these electrons, they try to stay in those shells, as again, in a stable condition. They will be there. They won't want to move to other shells. But if some external forces come, they can move up and down. Electron can go downward, okay, and when it goes down, it will release energy, mostly in the form of heat. Similarly, electrons, if other electrons come and hit, for example, temperature increases, or temperature changes, it can go up and it gains some energy. Okay. Then another important concept is valence shell. Okay, the valence shell is the outermost. So there are several. It is the outermost shell, and number of electrons that stay in that shell, they're called valence electrons. Valence, VALENCE. And these electrons are pretty important because these electrons are an atom's interface. When two atoms come closer, these valence electrons are the first one that come close to each other. So how many electrons there are in the outside one, and what kind of bond, or what kind of interaction, or what kind of force they have, it really depends on those valence electrons. So we will start with some examples, of course, but I was thinking, let's start with conductors. Okay, what is a conductor? A conductor is a material where that, okay, it conducts electricity. Means, and electricity is what? Flow of electrons. Means the electron can easily move through it. So it has abundance of electrons. Electrons can easily go from one side to another. Copper is a good example, right? We all know the copper wires. Let's start with another layer. Okay, so if you look at copper, I was looking at total number of electrons. So copper has 29 total electrons, okay, in different shells. So let's look at the number that I mentioned previously, how many electrons in each shell. So first one has 2, right? Then 8 is 10, okay. Then third one can have 18, so all 18 go there. Together 28, and it has 1 left for the outermost shell. So you have an item, and it has in the outer one it has 1 in the valence shell. It has 1 electron. Okay. Similarly, it comes close. In copper there are different atoms comes together, and each of them has 1 valence electrons. Okay. This single electron, since each shell tries to be tries to, it's in stable condition when it has full electron that it can have. So one electron there, it's unstable condition. It doesn't have a strong pull from nucleus, so it can flow within the material. For example, this can jump over here, and this can jump over there, and its electron can jump over there, right? So these electrons will keep moving easily. They move from one atom to another. And this flow of electrons is what we call current, right? Flow of charge, flow of negative charge, which is electrons. It's a current. Similarly, if you look at the atomic table, where you have copper, you also have silver. Okay, and how many electrons silver has? 47. So if you follow this formula, you will see that it also has one valence electron. Actually, in the periodic table, you see them in one column. Then gold. Gold is a pretty good conductor too. It has 79, and it has 1 in the valence shell too. And each of these with 1, they're pretty good conductors. So that's why we used one of these material for even in integrated circuits for good conduction. Okay. Now, the opposite of conductor is insulator. The insulators are materials where you have, electrons are very tied to that atom. They're not gonna move from atom to atom, and it's very hard even when you put a charge across or put them under high temperature and the battery charge. They're not gonna move like wood, for example, like plastic. Okay. So we have seen conductor, we've seen insulator, and the third thing is, which is semiconductor. Okay, it's not a very good conductor like the one these here, like copper, silver, and gold, but it's also not a complete insulator. It's something that you can improve the conductivity. So how, for example, the typical material. So before going there, let's look into another material which is typically called semiconductor material. Is a typical one is silicon. Okay. Now silicon has actually, if you look at, I was looking at the atomic table, silicon and carbon, and I saw the germanium. They appear in atomic table and in one column. And each one of these have 4 electrons in the valence shell. Okay, it's back. So silicon, for example, has total how many? Silicon has 14 atoms. Carbon has 6. Germanium has 32. So if you look at this, first one 2, second one 4, which is the valence, the outermost. 2, 8, and then 4. Okay. Similarly, the other one. So you see that each item, silicon, will have 4 electrons. Right? Don't need follow the same way. This is shell. It has 4 electrons, right? And in a typical silicon material, we have another silicon atom, and it has also 4 electrons. And what happens is two atoms, these when they come closer, so this comes closer, so what happens is this one has this electron, this one, the other one has this electron. So similarly in the neighboring one has another one, right? There's another neighbor over here, it also has one, and this one has one. Similarly this one has one, another neighboring one comes. So there were already 4. Okay, each one makes a bond with the neighboring one. It's called covalent bond. Okay. Now you take a look, and they're 2, 4, 6, 8. 8, and typically, in the valence shell, 8 is a natural number. That if you have 8, the atoms gets in pretty stable condition, and electron gets stability too. So you've seen that they're pretty tightly bound to each other in a crystal. So you've seen that lattice, crystal structure of silicon, when all the silicon atoms they come together, and they follow a pretty regular shape of crystal. Like you've seen the carbon, right? Carbon has 6, it has 4. When different carbon atoms come together, they make a crystal, and you know what is that? That is diamond. Silicon, when it makes its crystal, it's like a metallic, it's not a metal, it's like a metallic shaped crystal that if you search it on Google, you will see in Wikipedia the shape of silicon. So in this form silicon, it's not a good conductor, but we can make it a better conductor, or we can make it a conductor and then better, not as good as copper, but we can make it into a decent conductor by adding some small number of atoms of phosphorus or boron. Okay, those atoms that we add, they're added in a very small quantity, they are called impurity. Okay, so what happens is, well, before what happens, let's look into phosphorus and also arsenic. They have 5 valence electrons. Okay, as well as what was that, boron. Okay, gallium, I think it's G, I'm not sure. They have 3 valence electrons. Okay, so let's look into when we add phosphorus to a silicon lattice or crystal, what happens? So there are 5 valence electrons. So let's say, it's a good one I can use, can wrap it here. Let's see this one, we don't have a bondage with another silicon. Okay, we get phosphorus, it has 5 electrons, so it makes it with 1, and it has adjacent another silicon here, another one here. Okay, so phosphorus is 5, right? So 4 of those make a bond with an adjacent silicon, this one with another atom from this neighboring silicon, and this one there. So it has these 1, 2, 3, 4, and each makes a covalent bond with another silicon atom. But it has this 5th one, Okay, pick a different color for it. Pick a green. Oops, but it's okay. You got the concept right. This green electron is not bonding with any other one because you have more silicon or some small phosphorus, and they are making um, you know all other electrons are busy, and each phosphorus has one electron which is not creating bondage with any of them. So overall, a crystal of silicon with one of these added, I'm just picking phosphorus, added, will create uh, some number of electrons which are not tightly coupled to adjacent atoms or the atom itself, and they are weak. Okay, they don't have a bond, they are weak, they can move from one place to another place. Okay, if the charge applied or the temperature applied, they can knock off another electron and takes the place where they can go there and knock this out, right? So there we can make a movement of electrons. So we can make them conduct. So electrons can move. And now we had a material which was not a conductor is behaving like a conductor. Okay, so this type of material, where we have electrons in the form that they can move and make a conduction happen, is called N-type semiconductor. So we have made a semiconductor, which is not a conductor, but we have is a kind of conductor. So with this impurity, this thing becomes an N-type semiconductor material. Now, boron, for example, had 3 valence electron. Okay, so when let's say there was silicon. So each one has a bondage, right? So what we do is we bring, just like above picture, we bring boron. Okay, it has 3 valence electrons, keep in mind. So one is shared with this, one is shared with another silicon, one is shared with another silicon, and there's another silicon adjacent one has 1, but it's no bondage is happening, right? Because boron has only 3 electrons. So this is what we call a hole. There is a hole here that electrons can fill. For example, if high temperature comes in, or a battery is applied across, then maybe this electron, it sees, an attraction here because it can fill an electron, so it can come here. And when it creates a hole there, then we can have another electron taking its place. So it also, it's by, sorry, second. Let me turn on this so that you see good light. For some reason it doesn't like. All right, let's see. What enter password? Okay. So you have seen that now we created a hole of charge. This hole, this something that attracts electron is called, right? Electron has a negative charge, so this hole naturally has a positive charge, right? It needs electron. So you have seen that in this one, we have a conduction happening because of holes or empty places of electrons. And in this one, we have created more electrons. So this type of impurity, this type of semiconductor created with this type of like boron type impurity is called P-type. And we say that electron in P-type material is because of the sorry, the current in the p-type material is because of the holes. There are more holes. In the above one, there are more electrons. So let's put these N and P and make a device. The simplest semiconductor device, like alone P and N, don't conduct current, but if just a conductor, if we just needed a current, we could use copper. We don't need to use silicon and go through this process of adding impurities. But what these P and N do when you put them together, these materials then give us some important characteristics that we have some control, and you will see in diode, and then you see more in transistor. That control of current is a key thing, because with control we can allow or don't allow the current. If allowing the current when current flows is what we call logic 1, then not having current flow is a logic 0. And when we can create a 1 or 0 type of signal, current flow, don't current flow, we can send a signal to the receiving end, which means when we have some signaling to the receiving end, that means we can send a special information. We can send 1000, we can send 001, we can 1110, 1111, and each one of those can mean something different. So it's like another language, right? So we want to control, just flow of current, just flow of data is no good to us. We want to control, we want to send what we want, okay? And the diode is one of those simplest devices with the P and N coming together that gives us that control. So if you look at it, we have, let's say, we have a P-type material, and then we have N-type material. Okay, let me pick a different. Let's see, we add this to battery. Plus, minus. Connect them like this. Okay. So what happens? As you can imagine, that N has a lot of electrons. Okay. So what happens? These electrons, they start moving this side. You want to come to this side of battery, because this is sorry, put it the wrong way. This is positive and this negative. Right? Makes sense? Yes, makes sense. So these electrons, they will come to this side, and the holes, which we call positive one, they come to this side. And all these electrons going that side, that electron gets a positive inside. So current is flowing, right? So current is flowing this side, this side. Well, there's a positive. When you say positive is this side, electrons flow that side. But important thing is, they kind of, this is their middle point. They're not flowing through this. Okay, initially some will sneak, some electron will sneak here, some hole will sneak there, but eventually what happens is all these electrons from this side, they are pulled there, and all the positives, they're pulled at this boundary. So they kind of lock there. Okay, so they don't allow the current to flow through this. So this region where this thing happens is called depletion region. Now if you switch the polarity of the battery, right, if you put negative positive, opposite will happen. They will go and then the other side. Okay, but if you um, keep this one, then after a while current will stop. All right, so let's finish it here. Okay, it's already 35 minutes gone. I think what I'll do is in the next lecture I will go through the transistor and explain the operation of the transistors. So that's all for today, and have a good time. See you next time. Bye.